What more can I say about Night Trap that hasn't been said before? It was a time when FMV seemed like the future of video games, and boy was that over as quickly as it began, and it eventually became a time some people want to relive. Whether through a game like the infectious madness of Dr. Decker, or straight up playing the OG stuff like this, FMV games were interesting. So, for this spooky month review, I thought I'd take a look at a game where your mileage will vary. But before I do, let me get into the history of it, like I usually do. The two main players in bringing Night Trap into reality started at Atari, Rob Fulop and James Riley. Fulop had developed Demon Attack and the 2600 port of Missile Command for, well, the Atari 2600, of course. He also ported Night Driver to the 2600 and Space Invaders to the 8-bit family. Riley, on the other hand, was doing interactive retail advertising campaigns. Both of these works were done with Nolan Bushnell, Atari's founder. Fulop was actually working with Bushnell at his company, Axelon, not long after the video game Crash. With the Crash still fresh in everyone's minds, new ideas were needed to liven things up. One day, Riley learned that an engineer showed off a potential device that would create a new and exciting experience for gaming. The device used VHS as the main format, since that was the hot new home video format on the rise. The technology allowed 4 tracks to be played at the same time. The technology was actually presented first to another employee of Bushnell, and the third big player in Night Trap, Tom Zito. The system was codenamed Nemo, never ever mentioned outside. Zito was the one who wanted to present demos of it to Hasbro. Riley wanted the player to move easily about a house, and they thought surveillance cameras would be the best way with this technology. To get a better idea for implementing this idea with the technology, Riley and Fulop watched the play Tamara 3 times throughout a weekend in 1985. The play had multiple stories running in 13 rooms at the same time, thus the audience would have to choose what to follow. With an idea of how to implement it, a 5-minute prototype was born, Scene of the Crime. This prototype took place in a large house where the player is placed in charge of keeping an eye on a room where a safe is, all while looking around the other cameras to see who might steal the money, and at the end, the player would have to choose who stole it. With the prototype done, the team took it to Hasbro in December 1986, and they presented it to then CEO Stephen Hassenfield and 22 executives. They liked it, and they got further funding for the system and games. The game then entered proper development, and the team wanted to improve the interactivity / how engaging it all was. Night Trap went through several different forms before settling into the final game we now know it for. It started off as an interactive film based on A Nightmare on Elm Street, but that fell through. Zito then hired Terry McDonald to write an original script. The second form continued where Scene of the Crime left off, and it had a billionaire leaving a large amount of money in his house. Here, the billionaire's daughter would be having a sleepover at the house with her friends, but the house would be attacked by ninja burglars who wanted the money. Through many discussions, the game eventually evolved into the B-movie vampire fiasco we all know and maybe love it for. Hasbro went with it, but they were concerned with what could be seen as reproducible violence. Keep in mind, this was still being seen as a toy because games weren't that evolved yet. So Hasbro was pulling a Helen Lovejoy at the time. As a result, the vampires became a unique variant called Augurs, who didn't do things traditional vampires did, but the main family who owns the house where it all takes place were the exceptions. Night Trap took 16 days to shoot in Culver City, California, and 6 months to develop. Editing also took a few extra months. Riley himself directed it, and Don Burgess, cinematographer on Forrest Gump, was the director of photography. Everything had to be timed properly so the in-game events would flow smoothly without any major breaks. Up to 4 scenes would be going on at any time. The cast was made up of mostly unknowns and those who had minor roles on some shows. Josh Goddard, Danny, had one-off roles on shows like Webster, Good Morning Miss Bliss, and Punky Brewster. Susie Cott, Sarah, was on the soap opera Guiding Light at the time, and she would later have one-off roles on shows such as The Division, CSI, and House. Arthur Burghardt, one of the commandos, was the voice of Devastator in Transformers, as well as Detro, Stalker, and Iceberg on G.I. Joe. John Rashad Kamal, Victor, and Andres Jones, Jeff, had film roles on Star Trek the Motion Picture and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 respectively, but Dana Plato Kelly was the most famous, having been Kimberly on Different Strokes. Her career wasn't in the best place at the time because of her personal demons, and Fulop saw that those demons caught up when she started showing up late and not wanting to rehearse. The Augurs were played by stuntmen. They used a hobbling walk to be ready when the traps opened up on them. Everything was done in conjunction with filming and editing. The team eventually realized the old way of developing and tweaking things, like on-screen elements, didn't always work with interactive movies. Essentially, this was a whole new realm for many of the team, and programmers had to work with the footage they were given. All writers, directors, designers, and programmers had to be on the same page, or else major hiccups would happen. Despite this, things went along well for the most part, and the game would be complete. The game was ready to launch with the Nemo, which now had a name of Control Vision, along with Sewer Shark. Both games costed $4.5 million to make together, and it was two of the most expensive video games made of that era. Everything was ready to launch in early 1989 for an estimated price of $199, but high DRAM manufacturing costs ended up increasing the price to $299. That's $705.88 in 2022. The NES was about $100 at this point, and Hasbro determined it wasn't worth it, despite offering a different experience. Not to mention, the Panasonic 3DO would come out 4 years after this and cost $700, so yeah, riddle me that. Kind of ridiculous, but what can you do? While Rob Bullock moved on to forming PF Magic and working on the Pets series, Tom Zito bought the rights to Night Trap and Sewer Shark and heard that Sony wanted to release Sewer Shark on what would have been the Super Nintendo CD-ROM add-on. Zito then founded Digital Pictures to accomplish this. When the SNES CD-ROM got cancelled, he took it to Sega for the Sega CD. They moved the game onto CD-ROM since that was the hot new technology at the time, and the game was finally released. Night Trap was released on the Sega CD on October 15, 1992 for North America, June 1994 for PAL territories, and November 19, 1993 for Japan. A 3DO version followed in December 1993 for North America. MS-DOS and Mac OS versions followed in October 1994, and a Director's Cut version followed 1 year later, both for North America. Finally, a 32X version followed in January 1995 for North America, and 1995 in general for PAL territories. This version took advantage of the 32X add-on in conjunction with the Sega CD for better video quality. One interesting thing to note is that Sega ended up creating its own rating system, the Video Game Rating Council, since British censors banned it from being sold to children under 15 years old. Of course, this paled in comparison to the real controversy the game received on December 9, 1993, when it was brought before the Senate hearings. I won't go into too much detail since it's been talked about so much over the years, but long story short, the game was misrepresented as something it was not. The lead senators actually lied about it, and they gave Zito no chance in hell to defend himself. Also, the ESRB was formed from this, so yeah. Despite this, the game moved 50,000 more copies the following week after the hearings, but it was pulled from KB Toys and Toys R Us 2 weeks before Christmas that year. Yet both stores still stocked Mortal Kombat, which was also brought up at the hearings. Later, the game was pulled in January 1994 entirely, and a so-called censored version was announced that same time. But it really didn't change any actual in-game content from what I could see. It just used the non-story cutscenes from other versions, which were changed from the original Sega CD versions for reasons that will become obvious later on. Each version also had a different box art, since apparently that got complained about. Despite all this, the game had quite the cult following for being one of the first FMV games of its kind, and well, for being itself. This cult following led to hope for a re-release. James Riley announced in 2014 his intentions to re-release the game with improved video quality and gameplay. A Kickstarter campaign was formed via a company called Night Trap LLC. Sadly, this campaign was not successful as it only gained $39,843 of its $330,000 goal. This also hurt the chance of a sequel/re-releasing of other Digital Pictures titles, but maybe not for long. 2 years after that, Tyler Hoggle created a tech demo of Night Trap running on an iPhone. He had previously done official ports for 2 other Digital Pictures games, Double Switch and Quarterback Attack. He posted the demo online anonymously and gained attention from the gaming press, who contacted Tom Zito to ask if he was involved. Shortly after, Zito got in contact with Hoggle, and they worked towards a full release. With the original source code and master footage lost, the game had to be rebuilt from the ground up. James Riley had a copy of the time master footage, and he gave it to Hoggle. Since it was already timed, it was easier for Hoggle to develop, but he did replay the game multiple times to find out what actions triggered specific scenes. This 25th anniversary edition of Night Trap was published by Screaming Villains and released worldwide on August 15, 2017 for PS4 and Windows. A PS Vita version followed worldwide on November 2nd, 2018, and a Nintendo Switch version came out on August 24th, 2018 worldwide. I bring this up last because this is the ultimate of irony, since then Senior Vice President of Nintendo, Howard Lincoln, infamously said during the hearings that
Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system.
And the real ultimate irony in all of this is that he probably doesn't give a shit anymore, despite being so poised to mention that during the original hearings. Anyway, I'll be using footage from the anniversary edition since it's the best, and you'll see why soon enough. The story of Night Trap takes place at the Martin Winery Estate. People who have been going up to stay over there have been disappearing, including some students, and a group of 5 teenage girls. The Martin family consists of Victor, his wife Sheila, their children Jeff and Sarah, and cousin Tony. Police question the Martins, but they claim the girls left safely and refuse to let the police search. Where's the warrant? It would probably take too long to get one, and since people were dying, the police handed the case over to SCAT, Sega Control Attack Team, or Special in place of Sega for all non-Sega / later Sega releases. They investigated the house and found a series of traps, cameras, and a control unit in the basement. SCAT places an override cable onto the control system via the control panel in the back hallway of the house. This gives them control of the cameras and the traps. The player is a faceless operative charged with operating the cameras and traps to make sure this group of girls going in don't get trapped. These girls are Ashley, Lisa, Cindy, Megan, and Kelly. Kelly is actually an undercover agent within the group, and the girls don't know this. Also joining the girls is Lisa's younger brother, Danny. There's also another neighbor in the area, Eddie. He also suspects something is up. Depending on the version you play, the intro is different. Sega CD has Commander Sims talking to the player, as do the other original versions. But all non-Sega CD versions replace Sega with Special, and it uses different takes when Sims outlines the mission, in addition to game over sequences when the girls get trapped.
I don't believe what I just saw. Those bloodsuckers just got Lisa, and you had a chance to save her. I put the lives of those girls in your hands, and you screwed up. I'm pulling the plug on you before you do any more damage.
He really hams it up in the Sega CD version, but other versions have him more subdued.
I don't believe what I just saw. Those bloodsuckers just got Lisa, and you had a chance to save her. I put the lives of those girls in your hands, and you screwed up. I'm pulling the plug on you before you do any more damage. Breaking contact.
The Anniversary Edition uses the original intro, which shows the traps in action, but it doesn't actually tell you how to play the game. So let's talk about the gameplay. Night Trap is what we refer to as a trap-em-up. There are 8 rooms in the entire house. Downstairs hallway, kitchen, entrance, living room, bathroom, bedroom, upstairs hallway, and the driveway. Each room has a camera feeding you the action. The story will play out with a smooth flow, but there will also be intruders, the augurs. Your goal is to trap them and keep the non-suspicious people safe. How it works is that when an enemy gets closer to the area, the sensor bar moves into the red zone. Green means no one is near the trap, yellow means they're getting closer, and red means they are in the zone. When the sensor bar turns red, hit the trap button and watch them go bye-bye. Here's something that's not explained in the Anniversary Edition, but is in the original edition. It's explained that the traps won't work without the correct access code. There are 6 possible codes based on color: blue, green, orange, red, purple, and yellow. By default, the code is set to blue every time you start a new game, but at 4 points in the game, the code will change color. You'll have to be in the room to hear the specific color mentioned, or else you're left guessing until you figure it out, and you might miss some augurs in the process. Hell, the first change code, you have to wait until after you capture a specific augur, around the 540 mark. There's a guide on Steam that will help outline where to capture / change codes, and when / if you need help. There's also a counter on the screen that shows how many possible augurs can be captured, and how many you've actually captured. The controls are pretty simple for Night Trap. You can either use a mouse and keyboard or a controller. The latter you have to use on the console versions. I prefer a keyboard and mouse on PC since it's very simple to navigate. You just move your mouse and click on the room to switch, while using the mouse buttons for tracking and changing codes. With a controller, you have to move to a specific room you want with the analog stick and then hit the button to switch it. On top of using the other buttons for trapping and changing codes. It works, but it's not as ideal as a keyboard and mouse. The game also looks fine. There's no in-game graphics, it's pretty much mostly video, except for the UIs. The Anniversary Edition runs on Unity Engine, so it's not that heavy in terms of requirements, and the new layout looks fine enough, feeling like you are in a van nearby, watching and helping as everything unfolds. Should you be nostalgic enough for the original layouts, though, you have options for the Sega CD, 3DO, and MS-DOS layouts. You also have the option to have still screens forcing you to check each room like in the original versions, or you can use the new option and have a little preview play in the corner so you could just see before you bring the room up full. I like this since you could still focus on trapping augers while seeing what's going on. In terms of video, there have definitely been some improvements, but since the master footage was lost, a full restoration was out of the question. Thus what we have is VHS quality, which, given the game was originally meant for VHS, it's very fitting. Besides, 1, I still like watching Peanut specials on VHS because of the Paramount connection, when I was a kid. 2, it has that warm, fuzzy feeling just like Deku, Uravity, and Eri cuddling and falling asleep together under the blankets in a warm bed on a snowy day. And 3, nostalgia's a hell of a drug. If you can deal with VHS quality, it's fine here, save for a few technical hiccups that come with worn-out VHS tapes. Now I'm gonna get into the story, so use the timestamp to avoid spoilers if you really want to. Before we get into the main story, though, I do want to thank Jake Ziggity Steven for making a perfect cut of all the cutscenes in Night Trap to form the full movie. We'll be using this video as we go through the story, basically. Let's just pretend it's a DVD bootleg, basically, that we're using. Oh, those were real, actually, by the way, back in the day. Anyone who's seen Cinema Snob's review of this game way back when would know that. Anyways, now back to the video. We'll continue from where we last left off. When playing the original versions, make sure to actually trigger when Sims tells you to get over there, or you'll just fail from doing nothing. In the Anniversary Edition, he switches you over. Regardless, the game begins. There's a tease with the Martin family not being normal when Sarah's eyes change colors very briefly, but since you're trapping augers from the get-go, you might not notice. In any case, the Martin family is setting up for the girls' arrival for their sleepover. The girls and Danny arrive, and they're excited for the night.
Has anybody seen my chamois bag?
Which one? You got about 1 million of them.
Back off, Birdface. You just better be glad I brought you along.
The only reason you brought me along is because Mom made you.
Shut up!
Siblings. Can't live with them, can't live without them. Unless you're an only child like me. Sarah and her parents head out to greet the group, while Kelly lets us know they're going in.
You with me, Control? We're going in.
It's not explained how they know Sarah, they just do. Perhaps that would clear up some stuff, but I digress. Her parents eventually come out and meet the group.
Welcome to our little getaway.
Father, I want you to meet Cindy.
Hi.
Ashley.
Hi.
Megan.
Hey.
Lisa.
Hi.
Her little brother Danny.
What's up?
And
Oh, Kelly. Nice to meet you, Mr. Martin.
Please, call me Victor.
So charming.
And this is my wife, Sheila.
Hello. Come on, everyone. Let's go in the house.
Okay.
Eddie also makes his first appearance here, looking at them enter from a distance. Kelly asks who he is, and Sarah just writes him off, though Danny waves at him. They enter the house as Tony and Jeff go to make a delivery. The girls set the groceries down in the kitchen and look around a little bit.
what's this? Oh, homemade cherry popsicles.
Great.
We all have our own very special cravings around here.
Yes, I'm sure those are no more normal than Shaggy and Scooby. Where? While the girls go outside, Danny sneaks a peek into the basement before Sarah gets him to join them. Sheila suspects something about Kelly, but she can't quite put her finger on it.
What's wrong?
Well, there's something about Kelly.
Woman's intuition again, huh?
As Tony and Jeff get back, they find Eddie.
Hi, Eddie. Bye, Eddie. Nice of you to drop by, Eddie.
Oh, and let us know when you want to die, Eddie.
Yeesh. That's harsh. As they enter, Victor and Sheila leave.
Now, Jeffrey, make sure that Sarah gets them relaxed and separated before you begin, or they'll get away.
Don't worry, Mom. It's all in the fingers.
Good hunting.
The gang heads back into the living room and they decide to sing a little song, aka the game's theme. This is a simple, nice little 80s pop song bit. I'm sure nothing will go wrong despite this happy-go-lucky, feel-good bit. All the while, we're still trapping augurs. Anyways, Tony enters and Ashley accidentally bumps into him. The song finishes and the group gets introduced to Tony and Jeff.
This is my cousin, Tony.
What's this? We got problems.
And my gracious brother, Jeff.
They suspect we have control of the system, but they can't do anything yet.
We'll see if you can get it fixed. If not, we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Sarah shows them to their rooms, and Tony mentions how Ashley reminds him of a girl he once knew.
That girl looks exactly like Madeline.
Oh, not that again.
No, not that again.
Let's go, Studley. There's work to do.
Meanwhile, a commando from SCAT, Jason, sneaks in through the downstairs hallway and has a look around. Before he can report back, he's ambushed by the augurs and dragged into the basement. Danny sneaks an Oreo and heads back into the downstairs hall and fully sneaks into the basement with a couple augurs behind him. All commandos check in, but they learn Jason went in without the signal.
This is Leader. Come in, Collins. No movement, over. Swanson.
Looks clear.
Jason. Come in, Jason.
This is Mike. Jason's inside.
I said no one in until we got the signal from Kelly.
He thought he'd been spotted, so he went in to clean up. He clicked off before I could respond. It sounded routine.
Clearly somebody didn't get proper stealth training, or even just following basic directions. The augurs strain Jason up in that hidden cabinet and drain his blood. Danny heads back out of the basement and quickly sees what's going on without the augurs noticing him. And then they catch on to him while he quickly runs out. The girls continue to settle in while Collins, one of the commandos, disguises himself as a tourist looking for his boat. And he uses a Jamaican accent as Tony and Jeff answer the door.
Hello. So sorry to disturb you like this. So sorry to barge in. But I was wondering if maybe you had seen my boat.
Your boat?
My boat? Boat! Oh!
The girls also come down and Kelly gives him a glance, assuring everything is fine. Once he's done, he reports back in.
This is Collins, over.
What's up?
Everything looks okay inside except no sign of Jason, over.
Okay, back to your position, and fast. We may have to move in soon.
Roger.
The girls head into the kitchen and make ice cream sundaes.
We didn't buy the syrup.
Oh, I know. Crushed cookies and ice cream. You guys will love it.
Cookies and ice cream.
Yeah, you...
Don't you hate when you forget something and you can't just take a 20-minute trip into the next smallest town's Walmart to get what you need? Thank God for improvisation. As the girls leave, Sarah and Jeff notice some problems. Meanwhile, Lisa is still upstairs and heads into the bathroom to further get ready for bed when the scene you've heard so much about finally happens.
Megan, this isn't gonna work. You're not scaring me. Wait. What are you doing now?
Fortunately, we save her as she fights off the augurs and escapes via the window. You'll quickly notice, by the way, that once they escape, they are never seen for the rest of the game again. It's almost like you made the bad choice and let them die, but the end result is the same. What's up with that? Kelly snoops around and finds pictures of the previous girls.
They have pictures of all the girls. Their heights, weights, and blood types on the back.
Must be being prepared for a Japanese fighting game or something, I don't know. Tony sneaks up and warns Kelly.
I'd like to know what's going on around here.
Those eyes again. You know they're evil when they have crazy eyes. The remaining girls head back while Kelly and Ashley head off. Jeff, Sarah, and Tony have an emergency meeting. Danny tries to warn Cindy and Megan about what he saw.
Nice try, kid. I'm serious. Come on, I'll show you.
Wait a minute, Danny. Just calm down and tell us exactly what you saw.
I went down in the basement, and I saw these control rooms with monitors and buttons for traps.
Ah! I almost caught his weirdness! Eddie shows up and tries to warn the others, which Danny overhears and tells him what an auger is.
You've seen those things too? What are they?
Well, they're called augers, or augs, and they're like a vampire.
You mean they suck blood?
Yeah. Well, it's nothing personal. It's the only way they can keep alive. Most of them are so hungry the skin keeps falling off their bones. That's why they dress so funny.
That also explains why they walk like Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung beat them up. Eddie then introduces Danny to his laser gun invention and gives him one to defend himself. The group heads back in, and Megan and Cindy suspect something is up.
Sarah's acting a little weird.
A little weird. Come on, Cindy. Everyone around here is totally flipped out. This place is a disaster zone.
I don't know. When you take away all the madness, it's a nice little cozy place.
Entire weekend, and I wind up in the middle of nowhere. It's embarrassing, Cindy. And Sarah said it was going to be an exciting weekend.
Well, give it a chance. Tomorrow we'll go water skiing, and the lake will be crawling with boys.
That's if Lisa doesn't scare them all away. Let's go. Hi, boys.
Not if something else scares her first. Danny heads back in as they head out and puts Eddie's laser gun to use. Ashley heads back upstairs and is greeted by Tony, who warns her.
Tony, you scared me.
Ashley, you must leave now.
Why?
There's no time to explain, but you're in grave danger.
Tony, I don't understand.
You'd never understand. Just leave now.
Kelly breaks in to save her, but that gun is no good. They also wonder why Tony is warning them.
You remind me of a person I knew and loved long ago. But that could never be.
Kelly radios in for Mike to inform him about what's going on.
Mike, this is Kelly. Come in.
Roger, Kelly. This is Mike.
Code red.
Right. Okay, what's your 20?
I'm upstairs, but the girls are all over the house. Mike, be careful. These people are into something a lot worse than what we thought. I think they're vampires or something.
What? Did you say vampires?
Mike, I'm not kidding.
Okay, hold on. We'll tell leader we're coming in.
Mike tries to radio in to send them in, but the augers ambush him. Cindy and Megan head into the kitchen to try the popsicles.
Let's try one of these.
Cindy, all you think about is food.
So she's basically the female Jughead from Archie's Weird Mysteries? Okay.
3:26. Time for a snack.
Danny runs back in to warn the two.
We gotta tell everybody else. Follow me.
Cindy tries the popsicles and...
Ew! Cindy, you're making a mess.
That tastes like blood.
Bloodsickles! They really are vampires! And surprise, surprise, the augers strike once again to chase the girls. Eddie sneaks in disguised as an auger and meets with Danny. Eddie sneaks into the basement while Danny stays in the hallway to fend off more. You can actually let him die here in the anniversary edition, but don't, or it's game over. More augers overrun the house, so Megan and Cindy run upstairs and rejoin Ashley and Kelly. Kelly explains.
Now, I'm part of a special control attack team, SCAT. We have the whole house surrounded. We've taken control of all the traps and surveillance cameras in the house. There's one right there. Can they help us? Yes, they can, but you have to listen to me, do what I say, and when I say to do it. I think these might be vampires we're up against here.
Vampires!
The augurs then hack their way into the door, Shining style. Really gives a whole new meaning to red rum, am I right? Here's Augie! Ashley gets caught, but we save her, and she escapes and rejoins Danny and Lisa in that void of nowhereness that isn't quite life nor death.
Thanks.
But we can't rest just yet. More augurs! A couple traps later, the girls enter the hall, and an augur uses their device on Cindy's right leg. Trap the augurs in the hallway, then get Cindy out of a jam in the living room. Then save Megan in the downstairs hallway.
Control, you gotta help us. Please trap that big hog by the back door so we can get out of here. Kelly, what if they're not there?
Yeah, it's not like the Martins snuck on us and took us out since we aren't in the basement. We're in the van operating the traps. Now you see how useful that override cable really was? Don't hit the trap on the first round though, or she dies. Fortunately, we aren't that foolish. At least I would assume so. Then Kelly runs back into the entrance and is face to face with Tony.
Tony, this is all insane.
I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen.
Listen to what? What are you talking about?
Ashley, I tried to save her from the Augs.
Save her? More like having her to yourself in your way, sicko. At least I think. The game never clarifies.
Don't be foolish, Kelly. They wouldn't stand in my way. Would you?
Oh, thanks, Control. That was close.
This is why you don't try the operator, boys and girls. Victor and Sheila finally come back and suspect something is wrong.
Something's very wrong here.
Yes, the Augs are here. I can feel them in the house.
I'm afraid the Augs aren't our biggest problem.
The remaining commandos get ready to break in while Swanson and Collins waste 2 augurs, and then they see the decaying skin. The commandos enter, and the ones staying downstairs, along with Kelly, encounter Victor, Sheila, and Sarah. The groups go into the living room, and we finally get an explanation about this madness.
You see, Lieutenant, we were trying to help the unfortunate augurs.
Augurs?
Those are those things that were chasing us around the house trying to get our blood.
Oh, Kelly, I think you're overreacting.
Overreacting? They tried to kill them, damn it! So nonchalant about the whole thing. We also get an explanation about the augurs.
Become vampires.
Poor creatures! Those things are monsters! See, these people are crazy!
It's a wicked curse. Wandering about looking for blood, hoping one day to become a vampire.
Ew!
That explains why they dress in dark to hide their decaying skin, walk with a hobble, and use that weird neck-hugging device to suck the blood, because they can't get it the normal way. They think they can just take them in normally, but they're in for a rude awakening. Jeff shows back up and sees what's going on.
Jeffrey, are you all right?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? Where's Tony?
Control got him with the stair trap.
Well, I guess we'll have to take care of this ourselves.
That's it, take him in.
Get him, Jake.
Oh, please.
The rest of the commandos get wasted while we save Swanson. While Sims gets knocked down unless you trap him, another deleted trap from the original game.
What are we going to do with the others?
Don't worry about them. Now, let's go and get that phony.
Kelly runs back into the upstairs room and gets cornered by the remaining Martins. Sheila's the first to go.
Use the trap!
A closet trap!
But it was going to be a surprise.
Well, that's one hell of a surprise. Then Victor's the next to go.
Come on, you guys, you gotta help me. Please, use the traps. Now!
The wall crash! Ah!
It's like he didn't even realize he set that one up. Finally, Sarah's the last one to fall. We get congratulated for a job well done, and that's the game in a nutshell.
That, I knew I could count on you. Thanks. You are wonderful. And next time I'm on special assignment, I'm going to insist that you back me up. I'd go anywhere with you and feel secure knowing that you were at the controls. Nah, you wouldn't.
Or would we? Nah, we've been through one hell of a night as is. Let's just go get a drink or something.
I didn't think so. Bye-bye, see you next time.
Good job, partner. Back now, are we? Let's wrap this up. In terms of replayability, there isn't much in the original game. In the Anniversary Edition, there's a Survivor mode which will pit endless waves of augers against you until you can't go anymore. The basement has Theater mode, which will let you watch the story cutscenes on their own freely. There are 2 documentaries, the original timeline, production images, and even the original prototype, Scene of the Crime. On top of that, going for all the achievements will take you through just about everything the game has to offer, and that will take you about 14.5 hours, maybe less if you know exactly what to do. Either way, it has it all. Night Trap is a very simple game at its core. It's basically security guard camera watch, the game. There's not much gameplay to it. The real entertainment is in the cheesy horror B-movie that, despite raising quite a fuss back in the day, is really no different than something you would watch in the late 80s/early 90s on Sci-Fi/USA Network. My recommendation for this game will depend on what you want. Do you want an actual game to play? You might want to look elsewhere because there isn't much here. Want something a bit more different from the norm? Give this a shot. The Anniversary Edition is the best one since it has many quality of life improvements that make it more enjoyable to play and has plenty of content to keep you coming back, though the PC version still has some bugs that may hurt the experience that haven't been fixed. For example, I got the full motion video rental achievement despite not actually unlocking all of the videos, and I had to edit a config file that was buried somewhere in order to actually get them all. This may not be a great game per se, but I did get a lot of entertainment out of it, not gonna lie. I kind of have a soft spot for these cheesy FMV games, as I do think they have their own charm, like a product of their time. Something you probably wouldn't be able to make nowadays, not because of modern reasons.
You know, we're living in a society,
but because the medium was so young, and there was so much experimentation. Not all of it worked, but there's something in the genre for everyone, and Night Trap is no different. I give Night Trap a 3.5 out of 5. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, click the big red button below to subscribe. Check out the other links in the description for more cool stuff, and check out the playlist on screen for more content. See you in the next video.